Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a feeling that, well, if we're really honest with ourselves, has probably touched us all at some point. Jealousy. You know, that little pang when a colleague lands a dream promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Or that twist in your gut seeing someone else's amazing vacation photos. That kind of quiet envy when opportunity seems to knock on their door instead of yours.
Such a universal thing, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it's often one we're pretty hesitant to admit, even just to ourselves.
Exactly. But what if that feeling, that often, uncomfortable sting, what if it isn't actually some fundamental flaw in us?
Yeah.
What if it's more like an internal signal, like a flashlight pointing towards desires we haven't quite owned up to yet?
So less about what they have.
Right. And more about what our own inner voice, maybe our soul, is whispering that we want.
That reframing is just so crucial, I think.
Yeah.
Our sources really suggest that those I wish that were me moments aren't necessarily signs we're lacking something. They might actually be indicators of our own potential, clues about paths we might really want to explore.
Okay, so our goal in this deep dive isn't to just wallow in the negativity that usually comes with jealousy.
Right.
Instead, we're going to explore how we can actually harness that initial feeling, maybe transform it into something genuinely useful.
Like what?
Like a catalyst for action, maybe getting clearer on our own ambitions, and ultimately maybe even finding a source of personal strength in it.
Okay, let's start digging into that reframing idea then. When that familiar green-eyed feeling pops up, how do we consciously shift our perspective?
Well, a key move, it seems, is to consciously redirect where we're putting our focus. So instead of getting stuck on that why-them loop.
Which is so easy to do.
Oh, totally. We can try to train ourselves to ask, okay, what specific things about their situation can I actually learn from? Think of their achievements not as proof of our failure, but more like potential blueprints. They show us what might be possible.
That's a really constructive way to look at it.
Yeah.
And the sources give some pretty practical examples here.
Yeah.
Like, say a friend starts this amazing, thriving business and you feel that twinge.
Right.
Instead of just feeling envious, try to maybe nail down what exactly is triggering that feeling. Is it the autonomy they have now?
The freedom.
Or the impact they're making, maybe their financial independence? And then you can start to analyze their journey a bit more objectively.
Like, how did they do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What strategies did they use? What was their work ethic like? How did they handle the inevitable bumps in the road?
Precisely. Or maybe you find yourself envying a creator's huge online following.
Okay.
Move beyond just staring at the follower count. Try to understand their approach. How consistent are they?
Yeah, the grind behind it.
What kind of value are they actually offering? How do they build that connection? And same if a colleague gets that promotion you wanted. Try to look maybe more objectively at their preparation, their persistence, the actual steps they took. The goal is shifting from that gut reaction
All right, the heat of the moment.
to a place of genuine, analytical curiosity.
And that shift to curiosity is just vital, isn't it? By asking those how questions. How did they pull this off? What habits did they need? What risks or mindset shifts happened?
Yeah.
We can pull a really valuable intel that we can then, adapt and actually use for our own goals.
It stops being about tearing them down in your head.
Exactly.
And starts being about building yourself up, investing in your own growth.
Which leads us right into the next big idea.
Yeah.
Using comparison, not as a stick to beat ourselves with, but as a tool. A tool to get clearer on our own goals.
Right, because we're always told don't compare. But, let's be real, it's pretty hardwired, isn't it? We all do it.
We do. And the sources make this really sharp distinction. Comparison itself isn't the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's the confusion about what we truly value that messes us up. So when we find ourselves comparing, it often just signals a deeper need to clarify our own stuff, our own desires, our priorities.
Exactly. So instead of just feeling, crummy when we compare, we can use it as a chance for self-discovery. Ask yourself, okay, why does this specific person's situation get under my skin?
Right, what's a hook?
Is it their freedom, their creativity, maybe just their confidence? Figuring out those triggers can actually shine a light on parts of our own lives that feel lacking or things we really, really yearn for.
Like little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, leading you towards what you actually want deep down.
So essentially, the things we envy in others can act as really useful signposts. They show us our values, maybe highlight areas where we feel a gap and point towards where we might need to focus our energy and growth. The sources suggest these comparisons reveal not just conscious wants, but maybe needs we haven't even admitted to ourselves, desires we've been kind of pushing down.
But there's a really important rule here, isn't there? When using comparison this way.
Definitely.
It's got to be about finding your direction, not just getting depressed because you're not them.
Yes, avoiding that self-destruction trap.
We have to be careful not to get so hung up on someone else's path, their definition of success, that we forget about our own unique journey, our own goals. One source put it really well: admire someone else's path, but walk your own.
Ooh, I like that. It's such a powerful image. It's like you can admire the amazing view from their mountain peak.
Totally.
But instead of just wishing you were magically up there,
Yeah.
you turn your focus to your own mountain, figure out your own summit, and start your own climb.
Right. Your climb might look totally different.
Exactly. The destination might be different, but it's the process, isn't it? The striving, the learning, the growing. That's where the real value is.
Absolutely. And to really make this concrete, the sources share some pretty amazing stories of people who felt that envy, that jealousy, and consciously channeled it into something incredible. Let's talk about Kevin Hart first.
Okay, yeah. He's huge now, obviously, but the sources remind us his early career had some serious bumps. Bombing on stage, things like that.
Right.
And he's openly talked about seeing other comedians getting those TV deals, those movie roles.
Yeah, the stuff he wanted.
And admitted to feeling genuinely jealous.
Yeah.
Really felt it.
But here's the inspiring part, right? He didn't let that jealousy just sit there and fester. He used it. It became fuel.
Oh.
He just doubled down on the hustle, studied other successful comics, performed constantly night after night in small clubs, just honing his craft relentlessly. That envy literally became energy for building his empire.
Wow. That's powerful. Then there's Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx.
Ah, another great one.
The sources point out she was selling fax machines door to door, struggling financially by her own admission.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw other women succeeding in fashion, in business. And yeah, that sparked envy.
But again, that feeling didn't lead to her giving up. It sparked an idea.
Right, she took that feeling. And even though she had hardly any money, no experience in fashion.
Yeah, totally, starting from scratch.
Yeah, she started Spanx with just her own small savings. Her story is just a fantastic example of how comparison, if you channel it right, can actually fuel intense drive and innovation instead of crushing you.
And then, of course, J.K. Rowling. Just incredible.
An amazing story. Living on welfare, battling depression, raising a child alone. She saw others living the life she dreamt of.
A life writing, creating, having that freedom.
Exactly. And it would have been so easy, so understandable for her to just feel overwhelmed by how different her reality was.
Totally.
But instead, she channeled that longing, that envy, into action. Consistent, dedicated action.
Writing in cafes.
Day after day, building that world, those characters, that eventually became Harry Potter. The key takeaway from all these stories, really, is that these people didn't try to ignore or squash their jealousy. They felt it. They acknowledged it. And crucially, they chose to channel that energy into doing something purposeful.
Yeah, they took action. They didn't just sit with the feeling.
These examples really drive home that jealousy, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it can be this really potent spark for positive change if we choose to engage with it constructively.
Right. It's about seeing the desire underneath the jealousy and then taking actual steps to pursue that desire in your own way.
Which brings us to something really practical, maybe, for you listening.
Yeah, a little exercise.
Our sources encourage you to maybe take a few minutes sometime later and just think about 3 people you genuinely admire.
And these don't have to be, like, huge famous people, right?
Not at all. Could be friends, colleagues, maybe an artist whose work just clicks with you, a leader in your community. Anyone whose qualities or achievements spark that feeling of admiration.
Okay, so you've got your 3 people in mind. Then what?
Then the next step is some really honest self-reflection. Ask yourself, what specifically do I admire about them?
Get granular.
Yeah, dig in. What does that admiration tell me about my own values, my own dreams? What part of me feels pulled towards that quality or that kind of achievement?
What part of me wants to be seen or developed or expressed like that?
Exactly. This whole exercise is really about using those feelings, admiration, which can sometimes be tangled up with jealousy.
Right.
Using them like a compass. They're guiding you. These feelings aren't meant to make you feel bad about yourself.
No.
They're actually giving you valuable data, pointing you towards the life you want to create, the person you hope to become. Think of them as guides, really, not something to be ashamed of.
Guides, not critics.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. So ultimately, this whole deep dive into jealousy kind of reveals it's often just desire in disguise, isn't it? Sometimes an uncomfortable disguise, but still desire.
And And by consciously reframing how we look at it when it pops up,
we can get really valuable clarity. Clarity about our own goals, our ambitions.
and by choosing to channel that initial energy constructively.
We find motivation, real fuel.
And then by taking consistent action based on those insights,
Yeah.
well, that's where the freedom and fulfillment can start to grow.
And it's so important to remember. Genuinely admiring someone else's success or their qualities doesn't make you less. It doesn't diminish your own worth or potential at all.
Yeah, that's key.
In fact, the sources suggest feeling that admiration might actually mean you're closer than you think to embodying those very qualities yourself.
Interesting. So it's like a signpost that you're on the right track, in a way.
Could be. So maybe the next time you feel that familiar sting of jealousy, you can meet it a bit differently.
How so?
Maybe with curiosity. Acknowledge it, sure, but see it not as proof you're failing, but as a signal, a valuable signal that your own potential is stirring, that your own story is waiting to unfold, and that you have the power really to rise up and create the life you truly desire.
Because, as our sources put it so well, that feeling isn't meant to haunt you or hold you back.
Not at all.
It's there to light a fire, to fuel your journey. So acknowledge that spark. Consciously try to turn that envy into focused energy, and take those steps, even small ones, towards becoming the person you might currently feel that pang about.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, inspired by the sources. Don't be afraid to be inspired by others. Be afraid of ignoring what inspires you.
That's powerful. This whole exploration hopefully has helped empower you to understand your own aspirations a bit better, and offered a new, maybe more constructive way to handle a really potent, often misunderstood human emotion.